Hi Mark, thanks for coming to see me today. I said I would send you the SketchUp model of the CNC bench we've got to build, and here it is. Fairly chunky looking thing, as you can see. Top made out of 18mm ply. Actually, as the model stands at the moment, most of this framing is made out of 18mm ply, but I'm beginning to wonder whether that's not too expensive a way to go, and that a lot of it could be done with 2x1 and 4x1 instead. But anyway, I will show you the model and how it works. So in SketchUp, it's a good idea to have things in layers, and you just create layers, and the way you put something in a layer is if you make some sort of shape like this, and we triple click it and make it into a group, which is always a good thing to do. If you then right click it, you see entity info, and down here there's a list of all the layers, and you just say I want to put it in whatever layer you want it in. And the advantage of doing that, let's get rid of that, is that you can selectively hide things. So one of the thoughts I had, having made this great big 10-foot long by 52 inches wide bench, it's a shame that you can't really use that big flat horizontal surface for doing things for fear of damaging the rails, and they're pretty delicate. So I made this thing which I call the workbench, which merely sits on top, and in SketchUp you can use the move tool to move that about into different places, and then you can go and look underneath it and see how it's made and so forth. I'm using a special tool here, and if you're going to do any work in this, lash out some money. I got mine on eBay secondhand, and look for a 3D connection. That's CONNEXION 3D mouse, because all this moving around I'm doing with my left hand with the 3D mouse, which leaves me the right hand free to do other things that I want to do. So I'm not going to save any of the changes that I make here so that we can go back to the original. So let me just take this apart. If I click it, the whole thing lights up. It's really important always to make things into groups. Groups or components, and let me just explain that. So let's say I make a little rectangle here, and I use the push-pull tool to make it into something solid. There we go. So I've now got a lump, and if I click it, you'll see that faces get selected, and if I use the move tool, I'm only moving the face. Let's undo that. That's the first problem. The next problem is if I go and make put a cylinder on top of that, use the push-pull tool, come on, use the push-pull tool to pull it up. Now it's almost impossible to select that other than this. I can select this face. If I triple click it, the whole thing has been selected. In general, if you make something and you want the whole thing rather than just now when I tried to move that, if I'm doing a single click, I select just a face. If I want to move the whole thing, I can triple click, then the whole thing is selected and I can move that around. But by putting this cylinder on top, the whole thing that I get when it's triple clicked includes the cylinder. If I don't want that, let's delete that for a moment. What I do is I triple click this and say make group. Now I can put a cylinder on top like so, and if I triple click the cylinder, it's just it. So very quickly I can say make that into a group, and now I've got these two things. If I want to, I can select the whole lot and say make that into a group and move it around quite nicely. And if you want to break up a group, you can say explode, and now I can move this somewhere else. And if I want to edit this, I can explode it, but I can also what did I do there? Double click it, and then I can select individual faces and do interesting things with them like that, and then I could put this back on top if I wanted to. So I galloped through that pretty quickly. The other thing you can do is make components, and a component is in effect a named group, and there is a whole menu of components. You can go to the window components and select the little house, and it will show you all the components that are in your model. And two advantages of those is that at any time you can decide you want another one of those. So for instance, these two pieces down here, I call these shelf halves, made out of OSB, and I can just pull a new one out. And if I find that there is something wrong with this design and it needs modifying, if I modify it here, everywhere where there is a component it will change. Just to give you a quick view of that, let's try making it a different color wood. Oh, I'm not editing it. And you see the color changed there, and I don't want to do that, so I'll undo and go back to my OSB color and delete that one off of the model. So let's have a look at what we've got here. And so this is a component at the moment, but I'm just going to explode it for now. And now we can see the individual bits that I've got. So I can move the top away. I can grab hold of these side pieces and move those away and see that they are two copies of the same thing. And look at these other rails and so forth. So let's undo all those moves and put all that back together again and hide it. Oh, that's because it's become ungrouped. Right, I'll just delete it for now because I'm not going to save this model. So let's look at this. Let's take the ground away. Let's take the rails away, and then we can see the top. And I'm just going to delete pieces here. So I've made the top in 3 pieces with this rebaited connection there. And if I were to just delete that, what we can see is, oh, and I'm missing one of those side fish plates. Let's move that up to, come on, it's getting closer. There we go, that's better. I'll have to go out and get my original model and put that back. But if the idea is that these are bolted together. If I take all the bolts out of there, then and do whatever I need to do here, take the two, well, not even that, I've then got the bench in 2 separate pieces that I could move. Let's take the top off, and you can see the structure that I've made here. Let's explode that, and you can see how this is designed, and you could just take this whole thing to get apart. Let's take off the shelf tops, and you can see the support underneath there and the way all these joints have been made. And I thought I'd fix the problem with this, and I clearly haven't, so I'll have to fix that before I send it to you. But there we are. That's the 3D model of the bench. It actually needs to be redesigned probably say that I'm using 2x1 and 4x1 rather than 18mm ply, because I think that's probably quite expensive. But the next thing that happens after this is that you produce the cutting list, and I'll send you a separate SketchUp file in which I've taken all the pieces, I've rotated them and laid them down and put them onto 8x4 surfaces. These are still 3D. If you come in, you see they've got some thickness. And what you do is you get rid of the 3D-ness of all of these. So you take away the top face and the side faces and just leave them as 2D shapes. And then you export those as what's called DXF. And import the DXFs into your whatever your cutting software is to make the tool paths. So I'll leave you to play around with all of that, and I will actually send you the files once I've fixed up the problems that I've seen in them.